Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Karen and welcome to Our Irish Family. So today I wanted to do kind of a chit chat video with you guys. I wanted to talk about being a mom, my expectations 1 year ago before I had Ava, to the reality of this year since birthing her. So if you have been a long time follower of my channel, you will know that we suffered infertility for 2.5 years before we got pregnant. We got pregnant with a IUI, and in June of 2015 I had my daughter in March 2016. So next week on the 22nd she's going to be 1 year old. This year has flown past and it's just been a whirlwind, you know. So obviously, because we had been, or maybe not, maybe all people have expectations, well, all people have expectations, but because I was TTC for so long, I had a lot of expectations of how I was going to act when the baby was here, activities we were going to do, things I was going to do, like clot diaper, breastfeed. Like, I had all of this information of things that I was going to do, you know, and some of them played out and some of them didn't at all. But I kind of want to hit this off with just to let you know that I'm going to be drinking throughout this. I hope it's not too long, but I'm kind of thinking it will, because it's chit chat, you know. So I hope you can follow along and maybe some of this will be relevant to you guys. I'm always interested in your input, so do leave comments, and you can follow me on my Facebook and Twitter. Those will be in the description below. But anyways, on to the video. So in March 2016 I had Ava, and at the time, well, I think it was about 2 months later, I did my labor and delivery, and I described how Ava came into the world, how it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and how we were up until that point. So what I can't really remember if I mentioned in that video was that when I had Ava, obviously that was the first thing that didn't go right in my mind. I had an expectation how I wasn't going to have any pain medicine during labor. I definitely wasn't planning to have a C-section, you know, stuff like that. I had all of these expectations, a natural birth, and, you know, well, I was going to use gas and air, but it was going to be, you know, a vaginal birth and all this sort of stuff, and that didn't happen. So that was my first reality hit, that not everything is gonna go the way you want it to, so prepare yourself for that. Then came the breastfeeding. So because Ava was in the NICU and she was a big baby, she wanted to be fed. I tried to breastfeed her. I didn't really receive any help in the hospital from those nurses in the NICU, but I will say that they are in the NICU. They have high critical babies there, and they can't really be the people who have to show me how to breastfeed, you know. Now they did try. There was like one lady who did kind of work with me for like 10 minutes maybe, but they have a job to do, and it's to look after those babies. So I could understand that, but at the same time I wish that there was somebody who could spend a little bit more time with me when she was in NICU. So as a result of that, we had to bottle feed her. And now every time I went to feed her in the hospital, which was every 3 hours, I did try to breastfeed, and long story short, I have a breastfeeding journey video which I will link. It didn't work out and I had to pump. So I finished pumping, or I think it was like 4 months, 4.5 months, I stopped pumping and we just went to formula feeding. So that was again another thing. I had this expectation of how I was going to breastfeed. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew I was going to have to get help, but, and this is being really honest with you guys, because of how the birth went and how I felt afterwards, I was out of it. I didn't know what was happening. There was so many emotions going through my body. I wasn't prepared for the emotional turmoil I felt after having a baby, especially when I came home. So we skip forward to her coming home. On the way home in the car, I was sitting in the back, Robert was driving, Ava was in her car seat on the other side of the car. And the whole way home I sat there with my head up against the other the passenger's front seat, up against it, just breathing and like trying to tell myself that everything's gonna be okay. I had a panic attack on the way home, or anxiety attacks. There was something, I've never experienced it before, and I was so scared of looking after that baby, or after Ava, and I didn't tell Robert. We came home, there was visitors. Robert's mother and his nanny was there, and they're like, you know, you might get baby blues and it's okay to cry. The minute they said it's okay to cry, I started bawling, like proper sobbing, crying. Robert's mum brings me into our bedroom and she's like, what's wrong? And I just said, I feel so guilty about how that happened, about how I had her, how it's been since then. A couple of things happened in hospital that I wasn't happy about. And looking back, I should have been more forceful about stuff, but I didn't know. I was a first time mom. I think they took advantage of the situation. But I had so much guilt, and so she called Robert in, and I told Robert, and we sat there crying, and he's like, I'm scared too, you know, blah blah blah. And then it was fine. I cried a lot. I had major baby blues for about 3 weeks. Robert went back to work on the 3rd week, and that was honestly the best thing that happened, that he went back to work. But since then, there has been, and before then, there's been so many things that you're like, you have these ideas of how it's going to work, and for most people they probably work out perfectly, but because of the mindset and the emotional state I was in, it didn't happen for me. We never went down to breastfeeding group. I was invited to 2 breastfeeding groups and I was afraid to go because I was pumping. I wasn't breastfeeding, so I convinced myself I shouldn't go there. I never went to any baby groups like sensory play. I looked and looked and looked and I couldn't find anything, because it was the summer when I had her, or was coming into the summer. All of those kind of groups were gone. If they were there, they were like 30 minutes away, and I didn't want to drive 30 minutes with a baby in the car on my own. There was a whole load of stuff that I wanted to do that I didn't do. And it really kind of eats at me still. But I remind myself that now we're doing stuff, like we go swimming now. On a Friday I'm going to start going to like this music group. So we are going to do things. I did do baby massage, which helped me a lot. I think it was like a 6-week course, and I spoke to some ladies there. Now I don't speak to them anymore. It was just for the course I seen them, but it helped me a lot to know that I'm not on my own, that these struggles that I'm going through aren't just particular to me. Like, there's so many things when you have a baby that you don't know how to do. Like when she is crying and you've changed her, you've fed her, you've burped her, you've done everything you know to do, but she's still crying and you don't know why. And me and Robert just look at each other going, what do we do now? You know, and we're like Googling things, and like you have no clue what to do. And it's in those times where you're like, what's wrong with this baby? Like, is there something actually really wrong with her, you know? And you're like Googling, is there something wrong with my baby? Why won't she stop crying? And it turns out that she's just crying, you know. She's just crying. Or you hold her and then she won't stop crying when you hold her. Like, there's so many things. And even now, there's things that she does, or there's like, especially if she's kind of sick, that she hasn't been sick too much except for this past February. She's been sick probably for the whole month, but before that, you know, if anything happened, you're like, what do we do? Like Googling stuff, ringing your parents, like talking to people. You say it to anybody. Like, I know we did. We're like, well, our baby has this, like, did your baby ever have that, you know? So there's just so many things that I was really naive about, and it turned out completely different to that. Do I regret the way it has turned out? No. I think Ava is so great. I in hindsight, I'm happy the way the breastfeeding thing went, because Robert did take on that load of feeding her. I got to sleep more in those early days. I was recovering from a C-section, you know. Eventually, after about 2 months in, my mother just knocked on the door one day, came in and took my child for an hour around town, and that was the start of me kind of getting back to myself. You know, I could shower in those times that she took her. Robert's mum, I think, convinced Robert to try and convince me to let Ava stay overnight in her house, so that got that ball rolling of her being away from us, and me panicking about it. But now Ava spends like 2 days a week with her grandparents in either of their houses. I've no problem letting her go somewhere away from me, and that works perfectly for me, because I am a person who enjoys my own time. Like, even before I had a baby, if me and Robert were around each other for a whole lot of time, I'd be like, I'm going into this room, you stay out here, and let's not talk to each other for a while, because I just want to spend time by myself, you know. And that's just me. So her going to her grandparents is perfect, because it gives me me time, and most of the time I don't do anything in my me time, but it just gives me the time to do it. So yeah, like, that's really it. There's just been so many things how I had planned it, like cloth diapering, or using cloth nappies. At the start, we had used I think for like a couple of days, like the small newborn Bum Geniuses, and that was grand. And then I stopped using them. I just used like normal disposable nappies, and now about 3 days a week I use cloth nappies, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm gonna resell the ones that I have. Some of them are new, some of them I have bought used. I'm just gonna resell them, because it's really not useful me having them. I'm gonna keep all my Bum Genius ones because I love them, and I'm just gonna use it the way I have been using it, like 3-4 times a week, and I'm okay with that. I think you have to accept a lot of things when you're a mom and you're a parent, and you need to choose your battles of what you're going to battle about. And the majority of times I find I'm battling myself. I have the expectations, I want it a certain way, and it's not happening that way. I put a whole lot of guilt on myself. I point a finger at myself, and I need to stop doing that, because Ava is current with her development. She is like the brightest little bright spark there is, in my opinion, you know. Like, according to our doctors and health nurses, her development is perfect. She eats what she wants to eat. We work on a whole lot of things every day, you know. She's starting to speak now, she's nearly kind of walking, so there's so many things, and it's okay the way everything has gone. Like, that's the message I want to get across today, that it's okay. What you were doing is okay. If you're feeding your baby, if you're teaching your baby, if you're clothing your baby, if you're changing her nappy, washing your baby, it's okay. Everything else is second. It comes second, you know. As long as you love your baby, feed your baby, change your baby, and do the primary things, it's okay. As a mother, you are doing a good job, you know. Some people are made to be moms and some people aren't, and that's okay too, you know. Just do your best, do what you can do for your baby, and hopefully everything will work out. That's what I'm living by anyways. So that is my video for today. It was very chit chatty. I'm going to take a drink now because my mouth is dry. It was very chit chatty, but that's kind of what I wanted, you know. When I started this channel, it was all about trying to conceive TTC, and obviously I have a baby now and we're not TTC anymore, so it's kind of gone away from that. But I did want to make this video as my expectations when I was TTC, when I did that like TTC tag, or like a parenting tag and all those things, to reality, like as I said, all those things I've mentioned, like nothing really worked out the way I wanted to, and it's taken me a year to accept that. And yeah, that is it. So I'm really going to end it now. So if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. If you like it, give it a big old thumbs up, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.